Welcome to part one of CMS training for SEIU and Classified Senate. You can see here, this is the City College of San Francisco homepage. From here or from any browser, you can type cms.ccsf.edu to get to CMS. I'm logging in with my own unique passcode. This is not RAM ID or banner. This is a separate set of login credentials that you'll need to get from the webmaster. Currently the webmaster is Gerard Layug until they find a replacement for our dear Joe Ja, who has recently retired. Once I get in and log in, I'll see this web page. Click on websites to get started. And here you'll see on the left side different icons, two main icons. One is a folder and one is a web page. The folders are where you store files. The web pages are web pages like you would see on the CCSF web pages. So we're going to focus on the web pages and look at how we edit them. Because before I logged in, when I was on CMS previously, I was looking at the Senate and the SEIU web pages. It automatically returned me to that view, but normally it would start something like this, and you would open one at a time until you got to the web page that you want to work on.
So, Classified Senate and SEIU are under participatory governance.
Exactly. They're under participatory governance, under About City College, under the main CCSF homepage. The structure of CCSF web pages acts like a tree with hierarchy. The tree has parent pages and child pages. So the main parent page is this CCSF page. Underneath that is the home page, otherwise known as ccsf.edu. And underneath are all the child pages, which are in turn mostly parent pages themselves. So About City College has several child pages, one of which is participatory governance. And Classified Senate and SEIU Local 1021, City College Chapter, are two child pages of participatory governance.
So here's something that David told me earlier. Outside of participatory governance, you'll see there is another tab or web page called Classified Senate. This is an old one that is defunct and not being used. So when you want to edit the Classified Senate page, make sure you choose the one that is under participatory governance and not the one that is outside the folder.
So to go into those, we can click on them. We can click on them once and then double click on them again to see what they look like. You'll see that as I hover over certain elements in the page, there are green boxes that appear around these elements. That lets you know that you are able to edit these components, you're able to edit this page. Unlike when you aren't, which looks like this. I'm going to go to a page I don't have access to edit. This is one example. This looks like a page that is no longer in use, but nonetheless, nothing turns green. I can't edit this. I'll get out of there now and go back to the Classified Senate page, which I do have access to. Access to pages, to edit pages, is granted again by the webmaster or temporarily as of today, November 13th, and going forward until a new webmaster is hired, it is Gerard Layug. His last name is Layug. So on this front page, let's look at some of the components we have here. We have a title component. We have a text component. Over here on this menu bar, you have several tabs. If you look at the first tab on the left, you'll see the components that are available to you to put on this page. This one happens to be a title component, and I know that just from using title components a lot. You can go into the CCSF menu and find the title component. CCSF title. You can actually just drag it to where you want to put it, and the purple dotted line will show you where it goes, where it's about to go. And so I entered it there, and now it's green, which means I can edit it. In order to do so, I right click on edit, and I can insert any title I want. Important to know is that you can format this title, but only so much. It gives you options like bold, italics, and underline, as you would see in a Word document. Also different ways to align, but not that much more. There's some bullets, some numbering, some indent, outdent options, and finally what I would call a font setting, but only so many. So, I can write the name of a title here, and if I leave it at heading 2, we'll see what it looks like, and you'll have to experiment to get a sense of what the different headings look like. It won't necessarily change here while you're editing it. I get out, I see a different font, and you'll notice that some of them are smaller than others, and some of them even smaller. So when you create your title component, you'll want to note that you can change up to 5 different ways the font, in addition to some of the formatting like bold, italics, underline, etc. So I'm going to cancel this, and then I don't want this here anymore. I will right click and delete. And it will ask me again if I really want to delete this, because it knows that sometimes we make mistakes and don't really want to delete a component after we put all this time and effort into it. Similar to the title component or text components, like this one, if I right click and edit, in fact first I'll show you where they're accessible. If you go to the General tab here, you can grab text and put it anywhere you want. Put it here, you'll see where there's a paragraph symbol for the text component. I'll edit that, and similarly I get a text box, but with a few more options than I did in the title component. Although less headings to play with, there are more formatting options, if you will. There's copy and paste functions. You can insert a table, which we can look at soon. Looks like there are special characters, only not all of them. Some of them are available, and so forth. Style is standard. Looks like there's nothing to select under style. And you would type your text, practice text, and hit OK, and you get text. And go in and edit again. And one nice thing about the text component is that you can add a table. In fact, adding a table in a text component is better than using the table component. So that's a tip. So put the table in there. You can choose the number of columns and rows. You can say that one of those rows, for instance, the first one is the header, or not. Width is something you can deal with when you're more or less finished with your table, because the table will auto-size as you put text into it, and I'll show you that in a minute. Similarly with height. Cell padding just affects the thickness of the border around the table. So if I do 3 columns and 2 rows, I'll get a table very truncated, but as I write, test first row, and similarly underneath, test second row, it will expand, and as I fill it out, it will further expand up to a certain point, and up to the point where you'll reach the limit of the width of the table. Let's see how that looks. Not too bad. I'll delete this for now. Most likely for the Classified Senate and SEIU pages, you will not be creating tables. Although if you do, then you'll know something a little bit about them. So you can see here that the Classified Senate has mostly text and title components, although there are some others here as well. One of them is I'll show you here what this is. It is there are many to choose from. And if you don't use some of these very often, it's easy to forget. I believe this is a Ccsf document link, but I will check to see if indeed it is. Where did I put it? See if I edit this. Okay, so this is the one I just added. This is the one that has been here. In fact, this is not the correct one. I can tell because I don't have the image option and the text option. I only have a document option. So I was incorrect about this. I'm going to delete it. But this is the way that you figure out which components you really want, is by adding them and seeing if you like it, and if you don't, you use a different one. So I might have actually confused the document component with the CCSF text image component. Let's see if that's the right one. Edit. This looks like it's the right one. Both when I look at it from this perspective, I see an image, place to put an image, and text. But also when I go in, I see the different tabs, places to put text and place to put image. And in advanced image properties, this asterisk means mandatory field. It's going to want you to title it, because if I go ahead and title it, then I can just leave the defaults of the image size. I can change those another time. I can also make the entire image a link to somewhere else. I can show you that shortly. But if I just put this test in here and leave the image alone for now, when I go over this image, I'll see the word test. That was its title. And it wants that. It wants a title. Particularly, in my experience, we want our pages to be accessible to those with visual impairment. So one way that folks with visual impairment can read the websites without seeing them is when they click over an image, they get a title of the image, at least, to give them a sense of what the image might entail. So when I edit, I'll go back into edit. I can drop an image, and as an example, even though this is the Classified Senate webpage, I'm going to drop the SEIU locator image.
So here's another note. David dragged and dropped that image off of the desktop where he had saved it. You just can't see the desktop because we didn't have it in the record window.
And in my text box, I'm going to write SEIU local 1021 CCSF locator, leadership locator, that is. Press OK. Here's my text, just as here. This one's bolded, this one's not, and an image. You see the image is very small, probably not a good fit for something with a lot of text, an image with a lot of text like this one. Better for a logo or a symbol. And I'll quickly add a link, and then we'll end part 1. So under the title, you can add a link. Let's say I wanted to go to, actually I will go within the CMS. I will find the SEIU Local 1021 City College Chapter page, and I'll want to link to that. I'll press OK. Leave the image size as it is and its orientation. Press OK. Now this is an active link. When I press on it, it will go to the SEIU page that I indicated. I'll go back there. I will delete this component, and we will continue in the next segment.